Good morning, Mr. Griffith.
Hi, good morning to you and to your many viewers.
Thank you. So, Mr. Griffith, you declared an end to gutter politics. And what does that mean in practice? And how will your party ensure a different approach?
Well, sure. Now, we have seen for the last few decades, Trinidad and Tobago has been one where people try to vote out a party rather than voting for a party. So you try to vote out the party based on trying to use a smear campaign or based on their incompetence. Excuse. In this situation, I think it has been seen as arguably the worst government ever. So with all of the different things that they have done, instead what we have seen is other political parties spend more time in the mudslinging, in the gutter politics, and I think that is rather inappropriate. Thankfully, that bridge constituency, those persons, whether they call us the bridge constituency, the third constituency, the knife and fork eaters, whatever you want to call us anything, those individuals select political parties based on policies, based on programs, based on what you can deliver, based on how can you serve if you're not arrogant, if you're not going to be vindictive, racist, abusive. And thankfully, that 150,000 order continues to increase. It started in 1981 with the ONR at 91,000. It moved to 1991 to 127,000 with the NAR, of which Kamala Persad was a part of. So when she speaks in a hypocritical manner about pop-up party, she was in a pop-up party, and I think she lost the deposit then as well. And then 2007 with the COP, the Congress of the People, with 148,000 votes. Fast track, 18 years later, we have people between age of 18 to 35 years old. And these individuals are not in a house where mommy and daddy, this is a PNM or a UNC house, and they have to vote for us. Granted, there are 200,000 persons like that on both sides, that your PNM or UNC till you die, the political leader could walk around naked on downtown and you're still going to vote for them. That is their right. That is the way you have been brought up in politics, and nobody's there to criticize you with that. What we are looking at is to find an avenue to explain that the gutter politics, which we have seen, and it is so inappropriate. This is why the quality of the politicians you are seeing in this country has started to diminish, because the persons with the ilk and the capability based on good qualification, good experience, good training in specific fields, whether it be education, health, the economy, national security, they're not getting into politics because of the gutter politics. We have reached a point where a political party has actually hired or contracted individuals who said the nastiest things about them and others.
Yes.
You hire an individual who would have referred to persons, women, in the nastiest way, referred to them as with the B word. You have that same individual when a PNM member of parliament died in a fire. This individual said all of the people in the PNM should also burn. You have an individual that referred to you as a canal conquer and a latrine rat. And every single release that Philip Alexander puts out is to attack, to demonize, to discredit, to undermine. I will ask, and the way that we want to deal with it is to tell those floating voters, anytime you see individuals like that in a party, do not vote for them. Because that is not what we want. When you operate like that outside of parliament, do you imagine how this man and that party will operate when they get in parliament? They'll have parliamentary privilege. So if it is that they feel that you're bad, drive them or something, they will go in parliament and say the nastiest things about you. We cannot and must not allow people like that to be in government.
So, Mr. Griffith, reflecting on past coalitions, because right now we are dominated by these two-party system, how will the NTA ensure equal representation and prevent that dominance from taking over your party?
Well, unfortunately, because we are not first past the post, because it's not proportional representation and it is first past the post, we have been boxed into this. And that is why you will see a government that is deemed as probably the worst government ever. What they are trying to do is to clean house by removing the persons who those floating voters may not have been pleased with, be it Keith Rowley, Fitzgerald Hines, Reginald Amor, Win Colin Imbert. So they're doing a kind of a cleaning house. But that 200,000 would remain regardless of what. And the same thing with the UNC. Whereas the PNM is cleaning house, the UNC have brought in Philip Alexander and Wade Sturge. So they're dirty in their house even more. So that they know that they have their base, and sometimes they use that base based on a racial composition of, if you vote for them, they don't like black people. If you vote for them, they don't like Indian people. So you got 200,000 on both sides that are blinded by this politics based on hatred, but also fear that if you vote for the other side, they will do it to us. And so we must do it to them before they do it to us. That, what I am pushing is that agenda of that bridge constituency of those persons with intellectual ability to look at the different parties and see, can this person help me? Can this person provide what is required for me? The National Transformation Alliance by itself, the biggest concern the country has is national security, it is crime. There is not, the PNM and the UNC combined do not have 1 or 10% of the capability, of the quality of persons we have in the NTA to deal with national security. It's not just a Gary Griffith thing. We have people such as Paul Nahus, who's arguably one of the most qualified firearm experts in the Caribbean. We have Major Dirk Barnes, who was one of the major, well-respected senior military officers previously from the Defense Force. His concept and understanding of technology and so forth is second to none. We have people such as Captain Mark Jardine, who was instrumental and is probably the most versed dealing with the Air Guard, the Trinidad and Tobago Air Guard. We have Commander Norman Dindial, who was arguably one of the most qualified persons that ever came from the Coast Guard. So when we package this team, we are going to transform national security. And it is not just about national security. We have the same type of the best quality of persons to deal with every aspect of the public service: health, education, the economy, national security, sport, culture, tourism, you name it. And the reason we have done that is not just looking for people with an NTA party card, but persons with the intellectual ability, qualification, and experience to be able to transform Trinidad and Tobago. That is how we intend to bring forward to the country. We have the capability. I mean, I could just throw it. Look at what the PNM has to offer. Not one of them have any qualification or knowledge in national security. The nonsense said by a prime minister 15 odd years or 20 odd years ago that all you need for national security is common sense and a level head. He put a nightclub owner to be Minister of National Security, and we saw what happened. The highest spike in crime started taking place then until he was changed and replaced with Martin Joseph. The UNC, if you want the UNC to deal with reducing crime, this is what you're going to get. Kamala Prasad-Bissessa as National Security Chairman, if you ever find her. You'll get probably Wayne Sturge as the Attorney General, Philip Alexander as the Minister of National Security, Rishmi Ramnarayan might come back to be in charge of the SSA, and possibly Johnny Abraham as Commissioner of Police. That is a circus. So if you really care about your country, if you care about securing yourself, your family, your loved ones, your assets, then select the party that has the better plans, policies, people, and the political will. That is where we are driving. Getting those persons who are balanced, who have that intellectual ability to look at all the different options and select the best person, not based on race, not based on geographical location, not based on who can hate who more, but based on who has the quality and the talent to transform Trinidad and Tobago.
So, Mr. Griffith, I want to just get back to the coalition, right? So those that do not know, who are the members of this coalition? So we have the NTA, the HOPE, and CRN, which is Community Reformation Network. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Can you let's talk about what are some of the key unifying factors among these three groups?
Well, definitely the main thing is having the principles and ideologies to transform Trinidad and Tobago. But we have made a pact and an agreement that we are not getting into the gutter politics. Now, granted, politics is one way it is. You also have to find something you have to try something you could find on somebody and try to bring down your political opponent. We understand that. So I'm not trying to feel that all is right with the world and we must just not say anything. But to go to what we've seen 20 years ago, trying to dig up something with Patrick Manning to say that he had a child called Destiny, and that's what the mark you bust on a platform in 2002. Nothing has changed. You go now speaking about who was with a special branch officer. You go in parliament to state that a man's father raped his mother to make him. And then people are saying, and they commended Vanilla Toppin for that. And now we have the UNC contracting someone to attack every political opponent, to the fact of even myself. My wife is now undergoing stage 4 brain cancer with a tumor big as a golf ball, going through surgery and so forth. And Philip Alexander spends time attacking my wife, referring to her as my sick wife, attacking people's children. How could anyone vote for the UNC like that? You have to be mad, because today it's me, tomorrow it will be you. Kamala Prasad-Bissessa likes people like that around her. So what we are saying is that what our alliance is one that we are not going to have the Philip Alexanders and those people who could say the nastiest, most disgusting. Philip Alexander has never said one thing in any release or positive about anyone. So when it is that I would have made to come in and thank Keith Rowley for his service, that is shocking to the UNC, because the UNC's belief is everything the PNM do, we must demonize them, and vice versa. Our agenda is one where we intend to not look to find the bad in everyone, but to show the good in us of what we can do. And that is where we have worked along that line. That is why it is difficult for us to work with people such as Kamala Prasad-Visesa, where you have people you have contracted referring to people as canal conks and latrine rats and all of that. They're the most disgusting things about people, their family. And I ask anyone who has any brain cell, why would you vote for a UNC alliance with people like Philip Alexander? We need to teach people like this a lesson and realize the days of that type of gutter politics, to demonize, destroy, and to discredit people, you will pay the political price for it.
Yes, I was going to say regards to your wife. I just wanted to put that in. I wanted to ask, how do you intend to reach these more independent voters who are kind of, they don't know where to go right yet?
Well, what we've seen at this time, it can be a very low voter turnout, usually it's 65 or now it can go down to the 50s, because people are fed up between the muck and the crook. They've seen one political party that they believe is totally incompetent and they want them out. But when they look at that motley crew on the other side, where all they do is every Monday night is to attack, destroy, discredit, and then when they come up with ideas, there's no platform for it, there's no research. Kamala Prasad-Visesa came up with 50 plans to transform health, because you go on Google, 50 ways to improve health in our country. Each one is going to cost about $100 million. So she's going to come up with $5 billion with ideas, no cost-benefit analysis, not ascertaining, could this benefit us? Do we have the manpower strength? Is there a demand for it? Is there proper preventative, is there proper aspect to maintain the equipment? None. You bring up a burns unit in Point Lisas where no one has ever been burned in 50 years there, but you want to spend hundreds of millions of dollars because it sounds good. And that is where manifestos, this excuse where these major political parties come up to say, we're going to fix roads, we're going to fix bridges, we're going to build hospitals, we're going to build schools. Being there, done that. That is not what the country wants. The country wants development. The country doesn't want you building skyscrapers and then you can't maintain it and then it's breaking down. Whether it is the vessels from Trinidad and Tobago, whether it is our police service, you can't maintain anything, but you want to buy, to cut a ribbon, to boast about it. And then the more buildings you buy or construct, the more you're able to get the markup for your friends and your contractors and your financiers. That is where the NTA intends to go. That's where Hope, CRN, and others with similar views think we are going to find a way to be able to tighten our belt budget without trying to lift and increase taxes, all the waste of expenditure. We waste about $5 to $7 billion annually based on corruption, mismanagement, and incompetence. If we remove that, there's no need for property tax. There's no need to increase taxes. When I had the police service, it was the biggest budget over any other minister. When I was Minister of National Security, it was the largest budget over any other minister. And with the police service, sorry, bar the Minister of Health and Education. So the point is, I am fully aware of how to handle a budget. The only person who may have the capability of controlling a budget higher than myself would have been Keith Rowley as the Prime Minister. Nobody in the PNM and UNC can boast that they know how to handle a budget, because what I had was a $4 billion to $7 billion budget as a Minister of National Security and Commissioner of Police. And I was able not to spend 1 cent extra, utilize every single thing to transform what was seen as the most corrupt and inefficient of all arms of the public service, which was the police service. If we could have transformed the police service because of the team that I built around me, what we intend to show between the NTA, Hope, CRN, and others is we can, the same way we were to transform the police service, we can transform every arm of the public service.
Pastor Clive Doughton would have kind of warned about the illicit money in politics, right? How can you talk a little bit about that and how y'all intend to have clean campaign financing?
Well, again, because we don't have campaign financing, what happens constantly is political parties get lots of cash, big cash from financiers. And then when they get that now, you can't account for it. And the reason why the financiers do that is not based on corruption. So don't get me wrong. It's based on the concern that if you vote for party A and you finance them by cutting a check and send it into their account, and party B wins, they're going to remember you and they're going to bust your throat and destroy your business. That is how it works. And then that's why sometimes the campaign financiers, you put in A and B, so whoever wins, why bother to go Vegas? You don't need to go Vegas. You put $10 million on A and you put $10 million on B. Whoever wins, you're going to get 5 times that return in a contract in the first month. That is how it works. Thankfully, with a third party, these major financiers don't come into a third party because they don't see the dividends. So we are not going to be held to ransom by any contractor, financier, or anything like that. It gives us the opportunity to be free to be able to say what we want and not to be held to ransom by anyone when you get into government because there's going to be a price to pay. That is what happened with live sport. Promises were made to criminal elements and they had to pay the price, which is again one of the major reasons why I have problems working with the UNC, because some of the individuals, there was one who provided tens of millions of contracts to criminal elements and gang leaders, and she is still there in the UNC. There's another that when I was minister and commissioner, I would be arresting people, and the next day this man will be doing everything in his power to get them released to get back out on the streets. Kamala wants this man to be the National Security Council. You have another one who is romantically involved with every single gang leader practically. That could be in the National Security Council. There's going to be a conflict of interest. So whereas my job is to incarcerate and to put criminals where they belong, their job on the other side is to romantically be involved in them, give them state contracts, and get them released as quickly as possible. I ask the country, you decide what you want. You keep saying that you want to reduce crime and you want to make the country safe. You are going to decide if it is you want to vote yellow, blue, or red.
So it may be a bit unrealistic. I don't think that's your goal right now to go into power over the next 5 years. But what would be your main goal over the next 5 years?
Well, the thing about it is, if it is that the NTA can do what was done before, the Kamala Prasad is using the fear factor in people that referring to them as pauper parties and they're unable to win. That has proven to be false because Jack Warner defeated Kamala Prasad in her safest seat, which was Shagona West, I think, with Jack Warner with the ILP. So if the third party could defeat the UNC in their safest seat, this was similar to PNM losing Laventille. That is what Jack Warner did. So it showed that this perception that a third party cannot win, that is not true. If it is that these third parties can assemble and win a few seats, we can become the pendulum of power to ensure that if you want to be in government, you have to work with us. And now we will be able to keep checks and balances on you, which is what has not taken place for the last few decades. That is what was supposed to have happened in 2010 to 2015. But the UNC got 21 seats, and they used the COP to get into government and then spat them out. And that is where you got the live sport, the Color Me Orange, the Hoop of Life, state contracts, the gang members, all of this nonsense. Firing a Minister of National Security because he refused to lie to protect someone. That is what the UNC wants again, to have 21 seats and use what you call us pop-up parties, but you're begging COP, you're begging Philip Alexander with his one-man party. He has not held a meeting in a year. His headquarters is in his car to do videos to attack people. But that is what she's bringing in, these pop-up parties, because she knows the UNC has never been able to win an election on its own in 36 years when a third party is involved. So you're bringing in these cosmetic parties and then telling them to work under the UNC umbrella, under the UNC symbol, and give them all of the 12, 14 seats that the PNM will always win. You're trying yet again to use the third parties. So to all those floating voters, the independent voters, understand this is your opportunity to make a choice. And you make that choice and vote for legitimate, bona fide third parties that are not controlled by any of the two dominant parties. We can now have that opportunity to have that pendulum to decide that if you all want to work with us, we have to be part of the government. If you don't respect us, you're not going to get the support that you need. Because what we do, what we decide as those floating voters decides the outcome of the election and who is in government.
Mr. Griffith, you would have warned that Trinidad and Tobago could become Haiti #2, right? Can you just expand a little bit on that and explain what did you mean, what you meant when you said that?
Well, I really can't recall stating that, but I do know where you're coming from. And if that is the case, I'm strange enough. I was the first Trinidad and Tobago citizen to return home with a United Nations peacekeeping medal, even CARICOM being in charge of administration, finance, welfare, and logistics for 300 plus CARICOM troops from several countries in Haiti to restore democracy. So I lived it. I lived in a tent for 6 months, seeing what Haiti is. And it is a beautiful country, but it was destroyed by politics, by greed, by criminal elements, and by our CARICOM neighbors not doing enough to support them. If we continue to go down the road we are going down, we are going to suffer. We are going to suffer miserably. We can't put all our eggs in a dragon basket. We can't continue to try to divide the country in two based on politics. When you get in government and say you're PNM, nobody in the UNC must be involved in the governance because you don't have our party card. You have now lost half of that intellectual ability by qualified persons, and now you're going to bring incompetent persons lower down that level because of their party card. And it happens vice versa. The UNC, when you look at the people in the UNC now, when Kamala speaks about the quality and the success of the People's Partnership, she is correct. But then, half of it were the third-party people, the Winston Dukran, the Nicole Dyer Griffith, the Carolyn C. Prasad Bechan, the Prakash Ramadar, the Anand Ramlogans, the Devon Mirage, the Gary Griffiths. They're all gone because they're not in the UNC. And the UNC, they were able to perform because they had the Suraj Ramachan, the Gangra Singhs, the Bhotewari, the Fazal Karims, the Ramona Ramdials. They are no longer there. Now you have Khadija Amin, Barry Padarat, who held a purse for 5 years following you, Wayne Sturge. That is Julian John. You have people who gave away 600 fridge and stove during the last election and still lost a marginal by 2,000 votes, and they are guiding you in your campaign. So the point being is that we are in a very good place, but if we continue to let politics and politicians continue to destroy our country, we can very well end up like Haiti.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that, Mr. Griffith, and we do understand where you're coming from with all of this. We do have to wrap up this interview, however, but I had a lot more questions that I wanted to touch on, but we are out of time. So thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we'd love to have you back on the program another time.
Anytime, my pleasure.